Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the Lookout Podcast. Today with me is Glen Straws. Thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you.
We've been friends for a long time, man. You're an interesting cat, and Bronson actually kind of volunteered you for this, so I'm really glad he did.
Oh, he volunteers me for a lot of stuff.
He does, man. Well, and we first, I guess, kind of track back to say our history. Like, I first met you, I think, at hunting camp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had your octagonal canvas tent, wall tent.
Yeah.
And then, we were talking about last night, the Swiss cheese wall tent showed up later on that hunting trip. But special trip for me because that was my first mule deer. And first time I was able to take my Land Cruiser out and do some hunting, that old 65 of mine,
Yeah.
God, I forgot to show that photo, man. I got that epic photo with, like, your tent in the background, a little bit of smoke coming out of it, out of the wood burner. And then my Land Cruiser kind of facing your tent. And, you get the stream in the background a little bit, I think that was pre what was the jacuzzi?
I think I'm pretty sure it was that year because we had a friend, Isaac, who is this like ultimate Boy Scout.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he was in the Boy Scouts, but he just could make stuff like that. And he made he had like this big log that was sitting across, and he had two X's on each side. He like draped a tarp, and we had it all strung out, and it was like, I don't know how much it was, like 50 square feet of like just good dry cooking space.
Yeah.
We had two wall tents backed up to each other's a Taj Mahal of hunting camps.
Yeah.
And then we took an old horse trough, water trough, set it up on cinder blocks, and we could build a fire underneath. And the creek was right there, so you just bucket water in there, build a fire. Half an hour later, you just soak. And
it was awesome, man.
I mean, you go up hunt all day, hunt all morning. Midday break, just go soak, and get cleaned up, and you're just sweating and dirty and chafing, and just it was just nice to go jump in and soak. And
man, and kind of having the cold and hot therapy right there too, because where our hunting camp was, I'm not giving anything away here, but because I'm just not going to say anything, but it is dirty, steep coming out of camp. I mean, we're basically in this notch that looks like a V in this canyon, so it's like.
Well, it's funny if you hike upstream and keep going. It's literally you gotta walk through the stream in a few spots because it gets so boxed in.
Yeah.
But like you get through a certain spot and it just opens back up again, and it's just good.
Yeah.
I spoke quite a few whitetails back there.
Oh, really?
Just good deer. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I haven't spent as much time up there as like you and Bronson and the rest of our crew, but man, I've seen some big animals back there. I mean, big old herd of elk, but I don't think I've actually. Just off the top of my head, I can't think of a whitetail I saw back there. Were there decent whitetails?
Yeah, they are. They come up from the bucks. Whitetail obviously in this area is down on the river bottoms and down in the alfalfa fields. Cause all the ranchers.
Yeah.
And those bucks will come up to find a good spot to bed down when they're done, or when they chase tail, and then they come up and bed down, and they go back down.
Oh, so they're coming all the way to those alfalfa fields on the other side.
Yep. And a lot of people don't think about it, but we've saw some decent whitetail up there.
Yeah.
But they're so elusive and hard in that open big country, and they can see, obviously you see for miles.
Yeah.
And you'll almost like the antelope. The antelopes can see you for forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no one, it's just big open country. So, I've hunted in areas where the whitetail, it's brushy, it's thick, and you spook them. And then they run away, but they only run like 75 yards because they're in cover again.
Oh, yeah.
So they're safe again.
Yeah.
And so if you spook one up, it's not the end of the hunt.
Yeah.
You just give her 5 minutes, let them calm down, and then restart your creep, and you can still catch them.
Oh, really? Jeez.
Yeah.
That's good.
Like you spook an antelope, and if you're on foot, obviously you're done.
Yeah.
Because they're gone. They're in the next county.
Yeah. That's where my brain goes. Because like my folks' property, like it's all antelope country. So like, even as a kid out there just kind of trying to put the stock on it, it's like they're gone. And then it seemed like even, like you said, sometimes like a deer will even come back, like once pressure's off. Like those antelope, man, like there was this giant buck that I was trying to stalk at my folks' place. And I don't know if I ever really saw him again. Yeah. I probably chased him to some other hunter, and that was it for him.
Yeah. I don't know. This is a great spot. It's gets pressured, but if you just kind of know the country, and are patient, you can make it happen.
That's what the great thing is about like just the knowledge of the country. Like I know it pretty well, but like not as good as like you and Greg and Bronson, and my dad and everybody. So and Carl, so all the folks that come up. So it's like you hit one spot and it can be kind of a dead spot or a dead day, and you're like, man, I wonder where it feels like they're hiding, and it's just like, oh man, well usually if they're not here, they're here, so that helps a ton because it's a big country in Montana. It's really easy to spend all day hiking and not see even cut tracks. So.
And that's where optics come in.
Yeah.
Doing your homework.
Absolutely. I'm still trying to get better at that. I used to.
Right.
As a kid, man, I just wanted to hike, like especially in high school and college. I was like, I'm just gonna get on a pack and hike and cut some tracks and see what I can find. And that's just, man, it's just.
And I started hunting in 2007 when I first moved out here to Montana, and it was, I was late 20s.
Yeah. Just
coming out of the military. Like, I'm gonna learn how to hunt.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple years because at first I thought it was like you just go hike.
Yeah.
Just run up the hill, run down the hill. You'll bump into something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as I progressed and learned from other people, it came to like, okay, well, you're just wasting your time if you're doing that.
Yeah, spinning your wheels, and I mean, I guess it's a good workout, but like it's not getting any closer to animals. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about, trying to harvest.
Yeah, and then opening up your shooting, start getting that 300-yard shot in, start getting that 400-yard in.
Yeah, practicing
that
at
helps.
home. Yeah, you got a nice range. You and your wife got a nice range at your place.
Yep.
And that's so huge, man. And like, I think a lot of people too, like who go out and hunt, who carry handguns, like. I don't think they shoot enough, man. Because like, and that's coming from me, who shoots enough. I'm not enough. It shoots more than I probably average person, I would say. Like my dad's got a range, you've got a range. Like I've got enough property where I could have a range at my house, and I plink at some cans, but nothing crazy. And it's like, but every time I do go do some plinking, like with a 40 or 9, it's like I'm a little over the board at first, all over the board. So I was just trying to relate that to handguns, but like especially long gun, I think people get a little more comfortable with, like a 7mm or 300, like, like as long as you get a good trigger pull and stuff, you can keep it pretty tight, but like you still want to practice with that too.
Right. And I think, one of the things that's helped me with my shooting is I've got, the 300 in the bolt. Well, I went and bought a 223 in the bolt in the same style.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just cheaper to go shoot. I don't know, the cost on a 300, $1.20 a round.
Yeah, man.
And 223s, it's still expensive, but it's like 75 cents a round,
Yeah.
And so that just cuts that cost of practice down quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like in the 9mm.
Same motions, as long as you get it set up the same, you just shoot the cheap stuff, and then you take the big rifle off the shelf and use that to like end the day.
Yeah.
Take a couple shots to that. Okay, that's my practice session.
Absolutely.
And it is,
man.
you look at a musician who sits down and practices an instrument, they just, no one's in the room.
Yep.
They just learn that piece, they memorize that piece, they work on that piece. And the same thing with shooting to me is you got to have those practice sessions because I'll go up and shoot with other people and plink and have fun. Like, that's great. I love that.
Yeah,
but if I'm going to sit down and practice, nobody on the range, just me.
I like that, man.
Yeah.
And I think that would be better for me because my ADD, man, like, it gets a little competitive and I'm not really focusing on myself. And like when I'm shooting, I'm like, I want it to be like in the 10 ring or whatever, like, but I'm not really like really focusing on that trigger pull, Right. And like,
yeah, I definitely.
And my breathing.
I approach that with shooting. And you have to break it down into sections. You break it down to, you got to have your base.
Yeah.
You got to practice your base. Then you got to practice your trigger squeeze. Then you got to practice your sight picture.
Yeah. And
then you put all those together, and that's what makes a good shooter.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm going to just sit down and shoot and do all the things at once. And no, it's okay, I'm going to get down here in the base. I'm going to dry fire a bunch with my trigger control. I'm going to get up to the knee. I'm going to dry fire a bunch. My trigger control. Like when I go in practice, like I maybe shoot one round per 10 times that I pull that trigger.
Oh, really?
Just
doing a few dry fires.
Yeah, just dry fire, getting that base, getting your knees right, getting that arm right on your knee.
Yeah.
Standing shots, which you obviously don't do while you're hunting, but it's good practice. And get down in the prone, get off the bench.
Yeah.
People practice on the bench all the time. Oh yeah, I'm ready to go. No, get off the bench.
That's a really good point, man. Because I think guys like us have been doing it for so long. Like we don't maybe like at first to dial in like a new scope or something or a new gun.
The bench is great for dialing in your gun, getting your gun, learning the things. But if you're gonna practice like you play, you get off the bench.
That's a really good point, man. And that kind of ties into like what I want to talk to you about on this podcast. It's just like getting, not being afraid to get into something new, especially like outdoorsy stuff. And that's like kind of one of the hubs of the podcast is like getting out there and doing stuff like hunting, fishing, and just like tips like that I think are huge for folks, like dry firing, man. Like,
right.
And then having, like you said, those two similar make and models of rifle, with different caliber, because then everything feels the same. The stock's the same. The trigger's damn near identical, and then, and I actually, luckily, I know I fell in this with like Glock, because like the hype behind Glocks, like you can bury them in sand or whatever, throw them in the water and they still work. So I'm like, man, I want something that reliable. And they get a little funky trigger. So like when I first started shooting, I'm like, I'm not so sure, but now I got everything Glock because that's what I got used to,
Yeah, and I love Glock pistols, and they're great pistols. Like I'm a 1911 guy, but still, as long as you know what it's not about the trigger; it's about you, how you handle the trigger. Yeah, and it's awesome. I bought jewel triggers and put them on my Remingtons.
Oh, really?
But at the same time, that's a little tool to enhance your work. It's not. Yeah, it shouldn't be the base.
That's a good call, man. Yeah, for sure, and. Just getting those reps in, man, is super important.
Right.
And then like, and for folks who are hopefully listening to this, is like, me and Glenn were talking about our mistakes to hopefully like help people get out there and do it, like, and maybe not, go hike their day away when they could be glassing.
Don't be like me and spend the first 3 years of hunting just stomping around the woods, not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, man.
There's a method. There's a reason why people are good hunters.
Yeah, totally.
There's a reason why people are good fishermen.
Yeah. Exactly, man. And it's not, and I think sometimes there's like that stigma of like either, somebody with land or like you grew up doing it or putting more hours in, which more hours definitely does help, but like everyone's got to start somewhere, so it's like get out there, glass, don't just go hike your head off, unless you have a good endpoint that, where the animals are,
Yeah.
And that actually ties into what I want to talk to you too is, me and Mr. Straws here, Mr. Glen Straws, are on a what are we calling this, the Smith list trip? Because I drew a permit for the Smith, Montana, a river in Montana, very very popular river to fish, I guess, like a sought after, I guess, tag, and it's pretty difficult to get. Luckily, I got it on my first draw. Unluckily, it dried up this year. And the other day, I think it was at 112 CFS, which is a little low for floating.
Yeah, you were sending me an article about like 150 was low.
Yeah,
and we're like 100.
Yeah. So it was a no-go. So we called this the Smith Less trip because we're not on the Smith, but we're on the Missouri. So the mighty Mo, and the reason why we're talking about kind of like starting out is because Glenn's got quite a bit more experience than most of the guys on the trip, but most of the guys are like, from beginner to Glenn, and my brother and a few other folks who are like got a few. I mean, how long have you been fishing, I guess?
Well, I started when I was a kid. I grew up in Western Washington, and my dad took me out, and I think I caught my first fish at like 4 years old.
Dang, that's awesome.
On Browns Creek.
On a fly rod?
No, on a spin rod.
Oh, nice.
And my dad tells me a story. He goes to gut it, and he looks over at me, and he's kind of like, well, I hope I hope this doesn't ruin it for him.
Yeah,
right. Like I'm about to like rip open this animal.
Got the knife in the fish.
Right. And he said, no, I was just there. I was like right there in it.
That's cool, man.
And then, I spin fish forever. Everything, did some ocean fishing, but mostly up in the Olympics and the rivers and streams.
Oh, man. Beautiful country there, man.
Yeah. Just nothing too crazy. Just fished. Every summer we'd go fishing once a month maybe. Yeah. And then as I got older and was able to drive and I could start taking myself up, I fished a lot more. Yeah. Obviously not in school, and then, I kind of took a break from fishing when I was in the Army. And after the Army, I decided I was going to fly fish.
Oh, yeah.
And, just.
Had you fly fish before that?
Never touched fly rod.
Really? Dang.
And my mom got a job at Sage. She worked in the factory at Sage, making fly rods. And it was like you can buy one fly rod a year for yourself, for a family, if you work for Sage. Yeah. And it was like 50% off deal.
That's awesome.
And so I just, I think it's their launch series, which is their beginner fly rod, entry level fly rod. And then I bought that, taught myself how to tie flies. And then I got out.
Dude, that's huge.
And then just threw everything I owned into a little Ford Ranger and a one-way trip out east to Montana. Yeah. And throughout college, just fished. Like, what do we got going on? We got a fish in the background.
Oh yeah,
Jerry's killing it.
Jerry is killing it. A fish a day on this trip so far for Jerry Gaylor. That looks like a nice. Can you tell it's a rainbow?
It's a little silver on the bottom.
A little silver on the bottom.
I can't tell from.
Yeah. So my brother-in-law, who's part of the original 15 who were going on the Smith trip, is out there, and he's doing pretty well for himself on this fishing trip.
Guy's doing better than I am.
Yeah, I haven't caught a fish yet. I'm skunked.
Yeah.
Awesome. I wish I'll put a post on my social media, Instagram and YouTube, so that folks can kind of see what we're looking at too. And we got a bunch of photos. So actually, that's a good point, or it's a good part to bring up now. Mm-hmm. It kind of worked out. Could have been smoother if I made it smoother, but we're gonna do a little amateur fly fishing film out of this whole series, and that's kind of what we're getting to when we're talking about just like getting out and learning. Like, Glenn's talking about his experience, which is quite a bit more than the rest of us, but a lot of us are just starting off like this is Jerry's like on a river, I think his third day ever, and he's caught a fish every day. Yeah, and that's not normal.
Yeah, and I like back to my beginnings in fly fishing. I had Lefty Cray's Guide to Casting.
Lefty Cray's Guide to Casting.
Yeah, and I put that book out, and I was reading. He has pictures, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I tied a piece of yarn to my end of my leader. I'd go out to the yard.
Oh yeah.
And I'd lay that book down, and I would just like cast a bunch, and of course, end up with 10 wind knots in your leader.
Yeah.
And
dude,
pick it up. Okay, all right, that's how you do it. And that's just how I taught myself how to cast. And going through college, I had the GI Bill, and I had enough to where I didn't have to work in the summers.
Yeah.
And so I would do 90 days on the river.
Jeez, man.
Just wading, walking myself, taking myself out.
That's big, man.
In Bozeman, there's Montana Trout Fitters.
Yeah.
Those guys are great. So if you're ever through Bozeman, I'm going to shout out to those guys.
Yeah, shout
out. And, we tie flies all winter, just improved the craft, got better and better. Talk to those guys, talk about techniques and what to do.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of immersed myself in that a little bit.
Huge, man.
And, I was watching a YouTube video, and it was just awesome. This guy was like, how to fly fish for $90.
Oh, really?
And it was like, go to Walmart, buy a fly rod, buy some flies, and just go. Just do it. Just get out there on the river.
Yeah. That's like, dude, I don't know what the percentage is, but that's like a high percentage of anything, right? Just go do it. Just get the stuff you need, like Walmart, bare bones, and just go throw it around, man, And once, it's been said a lot on this trip, the tug is the drug. But once you get that first fish on there, on a fly rod, man.
Especially, it's just the rod is designed to be a big spring.
Yeah.
And that's how you cast. It's a spring. You're springing the line out there. Well, it works the same when you're trying to bring a fish in.
Yeah.
It's just a big spring. And
keeping that tension. And, I caught on my newer fly rod, I caught just not a very big brown. I don't know, 14 inches maybe, nothing crazy, maybe I'm off on that. 14 inches. I don't know. You weren't there, but browns are kind of known to fight a little bit more than rainbows. And this guy was in the Bitterroot River, and he had a lot of fight on him. And I'm working him and letting him take some drag, and keeping the tension on, because it's fly rod. At least the ones we're using barbless hooks. So if you tension comes off, they'll spit you, and your fish is gone. So keeping that tension. Man, my forearm was pumped. I've caught a tuna before, and it was it felt similar. Giant tuna versus this little guy, but like you said, they're designed to have that spring going, and it feels like a way bigger fish. Which is awesome.
Yeah, I still pick up a spin rod, and I still fish a spin rod, lures and all that. I like a MIPS silver spinner or copper spinner, number 2 or number 1. But that's my backup. That's not my first choice.
Yeah. That's where I'm starting to get to.
Yeah. And it's just, you can do it. I started out in tennis shoes. So those was my wading shoes, and, shorts and a T-shirt. You gotta
describe the shorts a little bit more, though. You told me earlier.
Wrangler cutoffs, man.
Wrangler cutoffs.
Old fashioned. All the guys floating by me, in their fancy gear. What's that kid doing? That kid's catching fish.
Exactly, man.
So it's not the gear.
Yep.
And I did have a cheater. I got the Sage fly rod.
Yeah, true.
But that was just because my mom worked there. But other than that,
And if you're not putting the effort in, it's not going to catch fish for you.
Right.
And like we talked about earlier too, it's, and you know, it'll happen eventually. If you get into something, you're gonna end up having all the great gear. But like starting off, you know, you get a little intimidated because you like see like this awesome drift boat go by, like some of those really nice wood ones. Like, geez, and these like guys that got all the stuff, you know, and you like all Sims or Orvis or whatever it is, which is great gear. But you're just like, you know, like because I was the same way, man. I was in some old tennis shoes and when it was too cold, I had these really old Frog Tog, you know, like waders, and like too hot for the summer and too cold for the winter, like, you know.
I just had neoprene waders that I found at a second yard sale, and those were my waders.
Yeah,
you know,
so
I'd be sweating bullets.
Yeah,
I'd like go taking my waders off, and I'd wade in, and I'd just be shivering,
freezing. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know,
put the neoprenes back on.
And, it's like not a good balance with neoprenes. And for anyone who doesn't know, Missouri is pretty cold. Like you could get in, it's refreshing, but after you know about 10, 15, like, you're starting to feel it.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna try to get out to Holter on this trip, so that'll be good. Like,
I've never been on Holter Lake.
Oh, really?
So that'll be fun.
That'll be awesome. So kind of getting back to like you were talking like spin fishing, you know. So like it has its place for sure. Like, you could probably do some fly fishing, do some damage on Holter, but like it's.
Oh, I know there's guys up there that fly fish it.
Oh, really?
And they're throwing big streamers probably.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the rise. I just never been a good fly fishing on a lake kind of guy. Like, you know, to me the river is where it's at for me, and that's my niche. But you can fly fish anything. Yeah,
which is so cool, man. Like, and I didn't really know that when I first got into it, and I'm still like learning so much. And being the wildland world, I mean, you know, the schedule is like you're pretty much gone all through mostly real good fishing season, you know, and like by the time things are over, you know, the fall is pretty good fishing too, but you're kind of tired and you don't really go, you know.
Well, yeah, when you're humping it all summer.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of want to go, you know, chill out for a while. But went to that fly fishing film festival in like 2018 or 19, I can't remember when it was, in Missoula at the Wilma, and that was super cool because it showed like all the different kinds of fly fishing. Like I knew about bone fishing, but I'd never really seen it, and seeing that was super cool, man.
Yeah, watching the videos, there's guys down in like Gulf of Mexico just throwing, you know, 6-inch flies, and you know, they got these 10 weights, 12 weight rods, and they're just reefing on them. And they're getting them out there, and there's just the way that they, you know, they strip them in. It's a bait fish. The big fish come up, and they take it.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, I watched, I think it was a Meteor episode, the Das Boat one. Did you see that one where they went for redfish in the Gulf, I think?
I didn't see it.
It was super cool, and I wish I could remember, like, Van Zandt or something was the guest on that one. It was Steve Ranella and Van Zandt, I think. And, yeah, like, I didn't know, like, redfish was that awesome. And, I mean, they made it look amazing. And just kind of a cool... And just like, you know, anything, you know, has this like kind of cool like luster, I guess, or, you know, like getting ready for hunting season or having hunting camp, and like just seeing like the saltwater fishing, and they got the platform boat, you know, and the kind of spot fish and everything, you know, like that's super cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, we did Mexico.
Yeah, how much to ask you about that?
Yeah, so, you know, we went down, and the gentleman's name was Colin. And I can't remember his company. I'd have to give him a shout out. But he took us out and caught my first marlin, and that was awesome. But it's just, you know, it's a different style. It's like we're out there, and you're not watching the water because it's a desert. You know, it's the ocean, big ocean, right?
Yeah,
we're 20 miles out, and so you're watching the birds. When the birds start going, if they're hitting the water, that's where the bait fish are.
Oh, gotcha.
And if that's where the bait fish are, that's where the big fish are.
Oh, makes sense.
We'd, you know, he'd hammer down, we'd run out there and throw the rigging in and just troll through it, you know, half a dozen times. When the bait breaks up, you take out and watch for the next one.
Oh, yeah,
and when, you know, the birds start circling and hitting the water, oh, they're over there. Hammer it, let's go, you know.
Yeah,
I'm dropping the hammer, Days of Thunder style, you know, like getting out there, and it just happened to be my turn on because you can only set so many poles out, you know, trolling off the back of the boat, and I just nailed a marlin. I was reeling that thing up, and one of our buddies, Casey, he's like, he's dehydrated, and I'm like on this thing forever.
Talking about you being dehydrated?
Yeah, like I'm reeling this thing up. And there's video of this.
Oh, really?
And he's like pouring beer in my mouth. He's dehydrated as I'm reeling this fish up. And it was pretty fun.
Dude, that is awesome, man. Like,
just get in there. We get the thing up, we get in the boat, and it must have been 5-6 feet long, easy.
Bro.
You know, it's the whole width of the back of the boat.
Yeah.
And we were on the Ponga, 27 footer, and just pictures, and I got the sail is sitting right up here, and I like holding it up with my teeth. And,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
that's
was great,
cool, man.
And then, we slung a line through it and dumped it back in the water. And, Bronson gave me, get your flippers on and get your mask on.
This is the craziest part, man.
And, I've been in the ocean, but I've never been, down 20 miles out. And just took that knife, put the flippers on.
Wait, what was the depth again? Did you ever say it?
Oh, it was like 800 feet of water or something stupid. 1,000 feet of water.
Yeah, way out there.
Yeah, but, just back flopped out the back of the boat and started gutting the thing in the water. And, it was pretty good.
When Bronson was telling me that story, I'm like, wait, what? Because it's 2 gallons of blood or so in a marlin? And, like, there's just no way to, like you're saying, it's just
right. You just don't gut
fish.
The thing in the boat. You're just makes a mess, and if that blood dries, you're scrubbing out there for hours trying to get the blood off the boat, and
and just managing a fish that size in a boat,
And so you throw it in the water and it floats.
Nice.
So it's the buoyancy's there. And first time I ever done any real snorkeling or anything like that. Had to, you gotta get over. You put your face in the water, and your natural reflex is to hold your breath.
Yeah.
And so I had to get over that reflex a little bit. Had to learn that I could actually breathe while snorkeling,
Yeah.
And I just ripped the thing up and started pulling guts and got her up, got the gills out, and Bronson helped me a little bit because by that time you can't see anything. The water's just blood.
Covered in blood.
Yeah. And we got finished her off and got her back in the boat. And I was like, I was taking time. It was taking up time.
Yeah.
I'm like, so what the fuck? Let's get back in it. Let's
totally.
let's go fishing.
Let's
and the
catch
guys in the
another
boat were like, one marlin, dude. That's like a prize day.
Oh, that's a huge day, man.
And for them, it's like elk hunting. You shoot an elk, and you're like, well, you're not going to run out there and shoot more.
No,
like let's back up and go.
Day's over.
Yeah. And I was kind of like, I didn't have that in my head because fishing, you catch fish. Well, go catch more fish. It's hunting. You shoot an animal, and you're kind of done for the day. So I didn't necessarily. I was like, well, what the hell are we dicking around here for?
Yeah, exactly. Like
let's keep going.
Yeah, more fish to catch, man.
But no, it makes sense. It's a huge, majestic animal. You don't want to overpressure them.
Yeah.
You take one and you're good.
Oh, I didn't think about the pressure part. I was thinking
Right.
more like saving the meat part too.
No, we had this huge bag, and I don't speak Spanish, but my terrible, my phrase, what was it? I can't even remember now. Doce hilos, por favor, which is 12 bags of ice.
Oh,
that was my homework. I had to learn how to ask in Spanish for 12 bags of ice when you stop by the store for the morning before you go out.
Oh, gotcha.
Because we just packed this huge bag full of ice, and then you get that thing in the bag and stuff, pack it full of ice, and it was some of the best fish I had.
I bet, man. Like just eating it afterwards. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we were eating it sushi style and carving it up because at the end of the trip there's 4 guys, and so each guy gets the equal portion.
Oh, cool.
You're not just fishing for yourself, you're fishing for the boat.
Dude, that's a way better plan too, because like then you get variety. Because you catch one big fish like a marlin or tuna or something,
right.
like then you just got tuna or marlin.
Well, that's how you come back. You come back tuna, dorado, marlin, needlefish. We were pulling needlefish.
What's that fish?
It's just this big long. Well, they can be big, but they're real skinny. They're like silver. They got a really sharp snout.
Oh, really?
And they're just super fast cruisers, just hitting sardines and everything. Yeah.
You have to look that up, man. I've never seen one of those before. I mean, they're just so wild, man. Just out there, and gutting one out in the water, man. That. Like I've done some wild stuff, man. Like I'd be thinking about that before. Like I went in, like
and they're trying to there's sharks in that water, and I'm like, well, I don't care.
That's what Bronson said. You didn't even hesitate. You just jumped in.
All right, I'm going.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Little things like that don't scare me.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, it's smart, man. I mean, like I don't worry when I'm surfing,
Right.
But like that would have had me pause for a minute, though. I think, like I probably would have still done it, but I've been like, maybe gave a quick look around, look for fins,
Yeah, we were out surfing in Westport, Washington, with an old friend of mine, and I'm not a surfer. Like I was just out there having fun and riding the board in, and
that's pretty much all I do.
And he's like an amazing surfer, and come on out, and I was just out there having fun and paddling out, and he comes in, and he's like waving at me to come in, and he's like, yeah, there's a shark in the And I'm like, oh,
shit.
Okay.
How'd they spot him? Just saw the pin?
He just randomly fell in, and just like was looking around under the wave as the wave is going over him,
Yeah.
And sure enough,
there's
there's like a big old shark out there.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, and I was like, well, are we done? Okay, yeah, okay. We'll go back in.
Jeez, man. Yeah, me and my bros, we went down because my little brother was graduating veterinary school in southern Pomona. I can't remember the actual university, but there's vet school down there. And so before his graduation, we went down a few days early so we could surf a bunch, and we found out it was like Shark Week in the area or something like that because we had no idea. Like, we had a couple helicopters kind of buzz low, like combing the coastline, and we're out there just like, yeah, like even the Red Bull helicopter came by and not knowing anything. And then we go to like Chronic Tacos afterwards and like just talking about it, and like some locals were like, what in the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, man, came here to surf. And like, dude, this is like shark. Like, this is some sharky time, to be fishing. Like, they've seen a bunch. Already been surfing. So I was like, oh, well, and we just kept going, like you said, man. Like, we didn't see any, luckily, but. Probably dumb, but we had a great time.
It's like getting struck by lightning, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, man. God, I mean, it's always in the back of my head, but it doesn't keep me from going outside, I guess. You
can get killed crossing the street.
Yeah. What a bad way to go, man. Especially after like the life you lived, and that like my life's been pretty adventurous too. Like.
Well, I
check out that way
in Seattle and Pokemon. These kids are playing Pokemon, and I'm like. And they're walking out in the street, following their phones. They're on no situational awareness whatsoever.
It's brutal. I think a few of those kids got hit, unfortunately.
Right.
Oh, it's brutal,
but
man.
it's, I don't know, it's life.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a good point. How long are you guys down there in Mexico?
We're down there for a week.
Oh, nice.
6 solid days of fishing.
Yeah. You guys going to go back down for that one?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll just see how it plays out. It was great thing to do. We're stopped in early January in Montana.
Yeah, so go get some sunshine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, me and the wife went down there for my 30th birthday. So that was awesome, man. And like, more of the party, like not really like, I mean, even at my 30s I was like really slowing down on that, but it was more like celebrating the birthday and do the touristy stuff. But I'd rather go down there and like do some surfing and do some fishing. I mean, there's a big surf comp going on because we're down in Cabo, so like we're staying on the Sea of Cortez side,
right?
But on the other side, I had no idea because I was just like hanging out with
we were in Todos Santos, which is just north of Cabo, and there's I forget the name of the bay, but the bay was just perfect, just prime surfing country.
Wait, on the Sea of Cortez side or
on the Pacific side?
Oh gosh, and that's where you guys were hanging. Did you guys do any fishing in the Sea of Cortez?
No, because I mean. That was a backup plan, was go around.
Oh, yeah.
But
you guys were having such
the primary plan was working out, so, we didn't bail.
That's cool. Yeah, because I guess in my head I was always thinking you guys were, like, more towards the Sea of Cortez and kind of dipping from the Sea of Cortez into the Pacific.
Bronson's been down there and done that a few times.
Oh, maybe that's where I got it twisted.
Yeah. No, we were out due west, basically.
That's awesome, man. Like, God, I gotta explore Baja.
Well, it goes to show, that guy Colin, he's put in the homework. He's been out there. He knows where to go.
Yeah.
So
kind of looping back around what we started,
right?
And talking about.
And you get into fly fishing. You got a guy that knows how to do it. Just tag along. Just go. And most of us fishermen, like if a guy says I want to go fishing with you, I don't even ask what time. Like, let's get in the truck. Let's go. That's the excuse to go fishing.
Yeah, man, and that kind of ties into something else, that I want to talk to you about. Like we were talking about, like public lands, but like just getting more people interested in it. And like other podcasts, like Rogan and stuff, they hammer on this, like know where your food comes from. And I think it's super important, and being able to know where it comes from, and we'll also be able to harvest that food. Right.
Right. And. It's here in Montana. We're really lucky because we have a lot of public land.
Yeah.
Washington has a lot of public land, but their seasons are so regulated and short.
Yeah.
And here we have such a great season. Fishing is year round.
Yeah.
And hunting is we have bow hunting, quick small break, quickly followed by rifle.
Yeah.
And you can still do it all.
Yeah,
you can get out there and do it.
And birds, like upland bird goes upland
like September 1st, clear till like December or something.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a long season there, and we are really fortunate to have all that, man.
Right, and it's it's a sportsman's paradise, and to keep it that way, we have to have space where people can go do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, defend our public lands, it's important. And I don't know if I've talked about it in the podcast, but you were talking about it earlier, like every time there's an election, it's starting to be talked about more and more. And, it seems to be getting close to shrinking in some areas, so not something I want to see, like our kids, you want
And I don't know, like I'll certainly start paying attention more to what my elected officials, their stance on access and public lands.
Yeah, same. Like that was not really in my brain when it came to like voting. I was thinking, taxes and like basic, more financial stuff. And now it's like, oh man, even my hobbies, I got to see, to make sure that's right. And which is also, most of us live on wild game meat, and especially in elk, that's provides a lot of meat for a family, and if that starts getting restricted, it's gonna be some problems for some locals,
Yeah. I don't know. We stopped eating beef when I figured out how to hunt and when I figured out where to go and what to do. And obviously I've had lots of help from people along the way. We stopped eating beef. We eat elk. Elk and deer.
Yeah, man. I think you just like feel so much better too, like lean, and we know what it's eating, like it's crazy because I can't remember. I was talking to some old boy. He's talking about like grass-fed beef. He's like, "Isn't that what they're supposed to eat?"
Right.
Like, well, it is. Yeah.
It's a marketing grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
Well, that they're supposed to eat grass.
Yeah, isn't that what they eat? Yeah. Exactly, man. It's like, man, I wonder what else I've been eating then if it's not doesn't say grass-fed on it.
Right.
When, you go get an elk or a deer or an antelope or moose.
Yeah, it's funny because every time I take out a package, it's like, oh, this is 2020's elk. Well, 2020, that's the year I almost froze.
Yeah.
We had to gut this thing out and then hike it out to the side-by-side.
Yeah.
And then the front tire went flat. Luckily, we had an air pump, and we pumped it up. We could only make it like a mile, and we had to pump it up again.
Yeah, dude.
That was a good elk.
Yeah. That's a really good point, man. Like, not only are you getting some meat for your family, but also it's memories. Every time you go grab like those back
2021 elk. Oh, that's the one that I had to chase down halfway across the range. And
yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Was it 2021 elk that you guys were like in a blizzard, you and Bronson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was
gnarly. Yeah, you should tell that story because that was awesome.
So, I don't even know where to begin. So we were out
opening day, right?
A week before opening day.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
And we're just spotting these guys and figuring out their pattern.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the plan for opening day.
Gotcha.
And there's a change because the years prior we went to a different spot. Well, this year we went to this spot, and so my house was only really halfway finished, so we're just camping in the house.
You and the wife?
Me and the wife. And we wake up, and the wife rolls out from. We had a cot set up. Rolls out from under the sleeping bag, and it's like blizzard out.
Oh, jeez.
And which is not the most common. Commonly we're cold, but it's it's still kind of.
Pause on that one.
Oh,
hold on a second. Perfect.
Awesome.
So we had a little
technical difficulty.
Exactly. And so now we're back on. And what'd you call it? The freeze your balls off.
The freeze your balls off 2021 hunt.
Yeah.
So about a week before the opening day of rifle, I bow hunt, but I'm terrible at it. So
let me see.
My jam is rifle, and we doing our homework. Out there spotting public ground, and out behind our house in Montana. Obviously, you don't have that in other places. So that's.
Yeah.
But that morning we wake up and it's blizzard. It's negatives out there on October 21st, which happens, but it's not common. Like October is a great month. Like we're cooling off. We'll get a snowstorm, but it doesn't last. Our winter doesn't set in until late December, January. That's winter.
It always seems like Halloween too. It's like when you get that snow in.
And so my wife, the house is half finished, and she peeks out from underneath the sleeping bag, looks out the window, and oh yeah, you guys are gonna get something today.
Yeah, like, she knew it, huh?
She jinxed us so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the good way and the bad way.
Yeah, she knew like that shitty weather, you know, she's like, you guys gonna be packing out,
yeah,
you know?
Yep. And so we go up, obviously, early, 4 or so, and we're driving up the road. Bronson's on the road, and his wife, who's super pregnant at the time.
Oh, geez.
And she was going to go out, but she was like, no, I'm going to stick with the truck. Call me if you need anything, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
God, she's tough.
I know. Don't even get me started. But so we go out. We're hiking up. Wind, snow in our faces, hats pulled down, every ounce. Normally you hike up light.
Yeah.
You know, T-shirts and pants, and that's it. Because you get up there and you're sweaty because you're hiking hard.
Yeah.
And so this time we're not hiking light, which is a big change from what we normally do.
Yeah.
You know, full snivel gear. And we're up there. We get up there, and it's visibility's down to like 200 yards. Normally you can see for 5 miles, but we're down to like 200 yards. Total whiteout.
Yeah.
Checking our watches. Okay, well, it's shooting light, but it's so blizzardy, there's no light.
Oh, it's so dark, eh?
Right. And so we're hanging out, and finally it gets to the point where we can start to see something. You know, visibility is still 200-300 yards. And we get up there, or we're up there already, just in our spot, and we're waiting for the elk to come out, waiting for the elk to come up.
Yeah.
And Bronson's like, I don't know about you, man, but I think it's probably time to go because we're frozen.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Okay. And about a minute and a half goes by, and I'm like, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah. Probably longest minute and a half ever. Yeah.
And so we start walking out, and sure enough, like, there's a herd of elk. And, you know, this time of year, the bulls are still kind of with the cows, but they're like starting to break off on the back. They're bachelor group in the back of the herd.
Yeah.
And
rut's over, right?
Right. Rut's over. Yeah. You know, they still can rut. I've heard heard bugling on rifle season.
Yeah, me too.
Early rifle season. But they're not like, it's kind of sort of play bugling. It's not like full on September, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're up there, and we see these cows. And we got to get going if we're going to cut these guys off as they're heading up to the timber.
Yeah, yeah.
And we start hoofing it hard, you know, a foot of snow, blizzard in their eyes. And it's dark. You can't put on sunglasses, so you're just like holding your eyes open and going for it, you know.
Yeah, just getting blasted.
And we finally get the spot, and we got a good 300-yard shot. And I pick my bull, Bronson picks his bull, and we unload on these guys and drop bulls. They're down.
Two bulls.
Yeah, 2 bulls.
Oh, awesome.
And, you know, I want to say it was like a one-shot kill, but, you know, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
But good, clean kills. They're down. They're dead, you know. And
Got the job done.
And so this is going to tie into a story later on.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
I had a double feed on my Remington.
Oh.
And I love my Remington, but that's the one thing you can't have. And I shucked out 1 round, and I took my left hand, and I'm feeding the second one that got in there because I short-stroked it.
Oh.
Like I didn't do a full
excitement.
eject. Yeah. And so 1 round, a good round, ends up in the snow.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, okay, well, my fingers, I can't feel my fingers. I'm not going to get a bullet. You know? And finally, you know, I get the gun cleared and back in action, and, you know, the bull's down. I was just working on my follow-up, you know, but he already went down, so it's good.
Yeah.
And so we get down there. We have to hop a fence. It's grazing country, BLM grazing country, so there's fences, you know. So we hop this fence and get down there, and there's this bull down on the ground, and we were looking around, and Bronson's like, I swear, I know I got my bull down. Yeah. We start looking around, and there's another bull. And normally we're like super like high five it, you know, woo.
Yeah, everyone's stoked.
Right. They're like 50 yards apart.
Yeah.
And to get a double down on opening day is amazing.
Yeah. Almost unheard of.
Right.
Man. It's really good.
So, and we've done it twice now, but Not to brag, but it's just really cool when you have a good hunting partner that you can do that with and get 2 bulls down.
Yeah, you were talking about earlier. You guys vibe so well too, man.
And we just, instead of like jumping for joy, we just like look at each other and our shoulders just like, it's like -10 and 20 mile an hour winds. And yeah, we're just like, what did we just get ourselves into?
Yeah, man.
And he goes, you work on your bull, I'll work on mine. And I get up and I'm doing okay and I'm doing good. And I'm looking down, Bronson's doing good.
Yeah.
But it's just like, finally I'm like, we're done. I'm done. I can't do this by myself. It's so cold and so gnarly out.
Yeah.
I go down like, dude, we got tag team this, to get this done.
And I think, I mean, if you don't mind me, talk about your history to show, like, you're not just like, I mean, you're a tough country guy, but like you have a history of toughness, like with the military. You were a ranger, right? So I mean, this is coming from a guy who's been through some stuff to be like. I'm just trying to paint the picture for the audience of like how brutal it is out there. I mean, you've been through some brutal stuff, and for you to be like, "This is all I got, man. I don't have much left in the tank."
Well, it wasn't about being in the tank. It was just I just started game planning in my head, like what's the most efficient.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, what's the best way to do this?
Yeah.
But I was done.
Yeah.
And I like go down there. Okay, I got you, Bronson. I have to help you to cut your field dressing time in half. It takes 2 guys.
Yeah.
So we're gonna field dress, get your quarters out, get them ready to go, and then we tag team my bull, got the quarters ready to go, and on this there's a road that kind of comes up. So to go down where the truck is like 2 miles.
Oh, gotcha.
To go over Cross Hill to where we can get the truck to is like 3/4 of a mile.
Oh, gotcha.
So the best pack was to go there.
Yeah.
And so we start packing, and we make a phone call, and Bronson's dad, Carl, comes up with the side-by-side and parks it. Yeah. And, we have to make a couple trips, and it's just brutal. It's just tough.
Yeah,
and then we get everything in the side-by-side. So we got 3 dudes, 3 rifles, 2 bulls.
That's a full load.
Right, in this side-by-side. And to get out of it, it's kind of a gnarly spot. He starts going up. Well, first of all, I got to back up.
Yeah,
we get everything into the truck or the side-by-side. And I pull out my water bottle and I go to take a drink of it. And Bronson tells me the look on my face is utter dejection. Morale is broke at this point. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Well, that was that day. So we get to there, water's frozen, everything's frozen.
Yeah, so nothing. You tip it up, nothing's coming out.
There's a little ice nipple poking out the top.
Really?
Of it. Yeah.
Brutal.
We get in the thing, and then there's so much weight in this thing. The road kind of side hills a little bit. It's not perfectly flat. And of course we spin out and end up. So Bronson and I are out pushing. Carl's gunning it, and snow's flinging off the tires in my face again. And we're just pushing, and we get it out of there. Right? Yeah. Fun, all right. So we get back on the road, and the next thing you know, Carl's like, "Man, this thing's pulling hard."
Oh, I know.
We get out, that front right tire is done.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm just like, I'm gonna hold the rifles.
Yeah, exactly. I need to take a break.
Right. And Bronson, they get the air pump out and they pump it up, little electric thing that plugs into the cigarette lighter.
Oh yeah.
And get the thing pumped up. Driving, Carl's like, "Okay, it's pulling again." We get out. Okay, it's flat again.
Just keep
going.
Yeah.
And finally, we get down, and we have to take a right, and we're down, and we get to my truck. I fired the thing up. It started. It was so cold. I was worried about it starting.
Please God.
Yeah. Little Nissan Frontier gas engine. If it was diesel,
not a chance.
Yeah, not a chance.
It gelled up and froze.
Mm-hmm. And so, all right, I'm gonna come in behind you. And they finally got it warmed up enough. We stop a few times, do a couple hot laps through the truck to warm up.
Yeah.
And, we get her going, and then we finally get back to the house. Bronson's dad, Carl, lives half a mile away or so,
Yep.
We get the animals to his place, get them out, get them hanging, and we get in the truck and I had that heat on hot. And if it were now, I'd quit because it would be so hot. But then it was so amazing.
Yeah.
We get back, wife's got the wood stove cranking, and we just stand in front of that wood stove and don't talk for like half an hour.
just thawing out, just thinking about your life.
But that was a great hunt.
Dude, that's amazing. And they make for the best stories, right?
Yeah.
You know, I had a professor in in college, man. I want to go try time with him because he's got amazing stories. And he'd always like laugh about getting stuck. Like one time he's out in somewhere like that was in the Bering Sea, but it was on land. You know, like they were doing some kind of like trip, and there was a bunch of people, and he shows me the video, and he's just laughing the whole time. There's like this hurricane force wind that's going on and tents flying everywhere, and he's just laughing. He's like, one of the best trips of my life. I'm like, one of the best trips of your life, man. That looks brutal.
But you can't do those trips by yourself.
Yeah, and you don't.
If that was just me by myself, I could have popped some quarters off, and I would have been walking back. You know.
Yeah.
You have to go get them the next day, or you know the chances of coyotes and everything getting in there. You know, I wouldn't have been able to harvest the animal.
Yeah, totally, man. And like, if you guys got 2 elk on that day and it was a beautiful day, still awesome day, but not like the same. Like you'll never forget that, man. You know.
But we had good gear, and we've been working on gear for years.
Yeah.
It's we started in blue jeans and school backpacks, and throughout the years we've upgraded to good wool, to good, I like Cryptek. I roll with Cryptek.
Yeah, Cryptek's good stuff, huh?
Forest Service gear that he gets, and it's just like good rifles, good optics. It's been a progression. It just didn't happen right away.
Yeah, and then like the stuff you add to your kit is like what stuff that just like adds to your efficiency in hunting.
Right.
Like optics is huge, man.
Right.
Like getting some good binoculars. Don't know who's listening to this, so I'm trying to make sure I like don't skip anything. So like a spotting scope, huge. Like that's like people were, God, someone told me something about like not using your legs to hunt, use the glass, kind of deal.
So one thing that listen to Steve Ranelli, like he kind of downgraded from a good spotting scope to good binos on a tripod.
Oh, really?
And we took that lesson from him, and now my spotting scope is my secondary.
Oh.
My binos are my primary.
Oh, really?
Using a good tripod with binos is, it doesn't necessarily 100% replace the spotting scope.
Yeah.
But
so you get super powerful spotting scope.
Right. But it's like, okay, you get the animals in, and if you're in a truck or if you're close to a truck or your spotting point, you get them in the binos, and then you switch to the spotting scope to confirm and get, bull or not bull. But the binos, this is an evolution in spotting.
Yeah.
You get out and you spot, and if I was day one hunter, like spotting, I wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
It takes practice. You get in there and you find the animals, and that's like a muscle memory kind of thing, but it's a brain eye memory. Like, oh, that's an elk.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, surprisingly enough, like my wife is way better at spotting animals. Like, I don't know if that's surprising. It's just she doesn't hunt, so it's like surprising kind of, But like, she's an animal lover, man. Like, she loves seeing them, So like, she's just got a great eye for it, and like, she doesn't want to go hunting, but I'm like, I kind of need you, babe.
Right.
Like I don't, because like you said, it's like a weird muscle. I don't even like recognition, right?
It's like a vision imprint.
Yeah,
like your eyeballs know.
Yeah, to know, and it's super subtle because they have natural camouflage. Like seeing that, like a elk is a little bit darker than its surroundings, a little lighter, depending on the year, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look, something looks different there, and then like staying on it and then seeing the elk like move its head, and you're like, just like that little movement, you're like, oh, there you are, like you're like something's not right about that background, and which is also
and there's
cool
color spotting too. Like one year I had a great year on color. Like you can just notice that color. Like, and then there's shape spotting. Yeah, it's hard to describe.
Just
but
like the
sometimes
shapes.
you see the shape. Sometimes you see the color. Sometimes you see the movement.
Yeah, I think that's what's stuck. I think I'm like a one-dimensional dude with that. I think it's more of a movement for me. Like I can kind of pick out, I guess, a little bit of color, but not like you said. Like some people, man, they can kind of do all three and like quick too. Like have that recognition super fast. And I'm like. But those people are also kind of spotting you around, and like most of my friends who are really good at that are kind of tracking a herd all the time, and because they're horn hunters too, and that just keeps your game sharp for when hunting season comes around. You know, like
I never got too much in the horn hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to. Like, it's always like gonna make an excuse to take the horses out. Like go comb some country, and usually I just too busy trying to get in shape, I guess. Or
I have a friend who's really good at it.
Yeah.
But he's on horseback. You're a little bit above the ground.
That helps so much.
You can see down more.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's really good at it.
I can see that because I mean I don't know about you, but like I've definitely seen a few sticks that I was like especially when we were on a fire, and I'm like I look over and like I see like a stick that looks like a horn, I'm like whoa, and, sprint over there, stupid stick, But it's kind of a big competition, for most Montanans, like everyone wants to find that nice shed. So
yeah.
But like that's another thing to keep your recognition up and keep you in the hills and keep you out.
Right. That's kind of as I get older, I struggle with that a little bit more. I need more excuses to get up in the mountains on the off seasons.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into this trip too, like excuses. Like I was kind of talking about that and using excuses for a good way. Like I said, like excuse to get in the mountains for a home run, and then like this trip was an excuse to get like family and friends together.
Right.
Because as you get older, I don't know if folks listen to this have that issue, but I know like there's like weddings, family reunions, there's just stuff that are going on.
Right.
Then I hit my 30s, and like and I think what it is like you make that transition from your folks planning and like the hub being your folks to like you being the hub of your family.
Right.
And that kind of seems like the transition I'm having in my 30s is like. Yeah. Waiting for my folks to have some event, and they don't have events anymore. They're retired.
Well, I'm 40, and all of my good friends were done being married by the time I was like 35. So it's that family reunion is kind of done. Yeah, sort of, but
totally, man. Yeah, that get together, right? Because everyone's already married. And I'm kind of on the tail end of that too. Like everyone's pretty much married, I know. So like there's not many reasons to get together anymore. And then that realization with this trip was like to do things, you got to make things, I guess what I'm trying to say, like to, what's that saying? It's like almost like, you can't just be about it or, no, I'm messing this up. Hopefully it'll come to me later. But like if it, you're waiting for something to happen instead of making it happen, I guess what I'm trying to say. Like by doing this trip, it made us all
stop waiting, start doing.
Yeah, stop waiting, start doing. That's a way better. There's another saying. I'm like, I tip my tongue. I'll never get it. It'll come to me right as soon as I hit stop on this sucker. It's gonna come to my brain. But yeah, I mean that's so important, man. Like if you keep talking about something and not doing, being about it, like you never will. And that's huge with me and fly fishing, everything. Like I've lived in the Bitterroot Valley since 2011, pretty much, and just now got a boat. Just now started like fly fishing the Bitterroot. I know it's a bit of a gnarly river, so I mean. A lot of people don't go on that one, but
it's doable.
Yeah, totally.
I floated a few times because I finished college in Missoula.
Oh yeah, man.
And it was good. Yeah, we were down at Florence, and we floated a few times. Yeah. One time, my girlfriend, wife now, but we were let's grab the tubes, drive up a bit. So we drove up a bit, and then it's a great spot to put in. So we started going down this bank, and next thing we know, we get caught in some marshland, and it was just like a nasty slog to get the inner tubes out to the main river. But it was good. Yeah. But that river's great. You can float it. It's good. It's just a little more technical for floating. Technical.
Yeah, totally, man. And just a few weeks ago, a strainer caught a drift boat. Luckily, everyone was fine, but that drift boat was still there when me and my buddy Stearman went by just a couple weeks ago. So it's you definitely gotta keep your head on a swivel. It's not like so much of a drinking, fish.
It's not the Madison.
Yeah,
it's the lower Madison.
Yeah, beautiful spot, man. Yeah, a lot of time on that river, not fishing, just being there and floating. Right. Yeah, but those like party floats, man, they're fun too, man. Like that was an excuse to get together back in the day. It was like hot day, let's meet up on the Madison, by Norris there, and like that doesn't happen as much because people have families. So, like having this. And having annual trips, man, I didn't get it when I was younger. Now, totally get it because otherwise, Montana is so damn big. I mean, we're almost 3 hours from each other, you know. So like, unless it's hunting season, I'm usually not in the area, Right. So doing this will hopefully get us together. And I want to bring back. You were saying something about like you're telling a story to tell another story. Did you get to that story, or were you gonna?
So fast forward a full year after the Freeze Your Nuts tour.
Yes.
We were back up on the same spot on it wasn't opening day, it was the day after.
Oh, gotcha.
And so we're up there spotting, and we don't see the herd. Like, we did our homework again. Yeah. Putting them, watching them, getting their patterns. Yep. And opening day, nothing. No big deal. We're in it for 30 days. We're not just in it for a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, go back, spot in the evening, go back. And then the next day we're up, and same spot because we didn't really have any good leads.
Oh yeah.
And so we just kind of thought it was a fluke. And there's a public ground, so there's lots of other hunters, and we spent a lot of time out there. Just there wasn't a lot of shooting going on.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't think, because sometimes in this area, when the hunters get into the herd and they shoot, as they should, they break up the herd.
Yeah.
The herd kind of splits, or they go somewhere different.
Yeah.
That's just part of the game. But we're up there, and we're thinking, well, this herd's got to be still kind of together. And it's like a 30-head herd.
Yeah.
Probably 25 cows, 5 shooter bulls. And it's bull only on your A tag.
Yeah.
And
Brow-tine bull?
Brow-tine bull.
Yeah, brow-tine bull. Yeah.
And so we're up there again, same spot, and we see this lone bull. So it was Bronson, who has eagle eyes when it comes to elk.
Yeah.
Like, they're out there. They're clear down.
Yeah.
They're like 5-6 miles out.
Almost like you can smell them.
Right.
Like his sixth sense kicks in. He's like,
and I'm a decent spotter, but that guy can spot.
Yeah.
And so this satellite bull, he's legal, but you can totally tell he got kicked out.
Oh.
Because the main bull, was tired of him, and he got kicked out. So he's like, at this point, they're just specks in the glass,
Yeah.
So the specks are there. They're elk. We know they're elk. And one lone speck gets kicked out. And we're like, man, that must be a satellite guy that just, the lead dude just didn't like him.
Yeah.
So gave him the what for and kicked him out of the group.
Yeah.
And so he comes off on his own, and he's coming to us. And there's a bunch of hunters down below us. And we're like, man, he's going to run the gauntlet. And so we start cheering him on. Like, you can do it, buddy. Like, make it. You can do it.
Yeah,
like,
you see all the orange out there waiting for him.
All the orange, the trucks, everyone's out there.
Dude.
And like, come on, man. And he makes it through. And we're like all of a sudden we went from cheering him on to like, let's go chase him down.
Yeah, well, here he comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we get out there, and somehow it was the same exact spot as the year before.
Oh, no.
That we set up our shooting spot to ambush this guy as he's coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
look, it's good, though, because you know it's country.
And I'm just like on a knee, and we're kind of waiting for him to make his move to come up so we can try and ambush him.
Yeah.
And I look down, and there's my bullet from last year laying on the ground.
No way.
So I pick it up, and I put it in my binocle case.
Yeah.
And so the way he came up, he come with this draw, and his draw forks. And so we kind of thought that he had taken the right fork as opposed to the left fork, which would have been brought to us.
Oh, get you.
So Bronson's like, go get that guy. And I'm like, going to go down and back up to catch the other fork.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like hoofing it. And it's, it's not the toughest mountain range I've ever been on, but it's a tough range. Like there's lots of country out there.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. That grass can be almost like kind of slippery.
And rocks, you got to dodge rocks. There's big rocks, little rocks, and
steep.
Right, steep.
Yeah.
And you'll be hiking up and you'll catch a big rock and you can't step over it. You gotta go around. So you're switching directions a lot and kind of weaving up through this country and sage and junipers, all that stuff. So I'm hoofing it, and he did not take the right fork.
Oh, no.
He took the left fork.
Yeah.
And he catches me, and I hear his hooves hit rock.
Oh,
That's
no.
how I heard him.
Yeah.
And I look over, he looks at me, and maybe not the best thing in the world to do, but I take a shot.
Yeah.
And I gut shoot this thing, and I just said to myself, I'm gonna die before I let this guy go.
Yeah.
Like I have to put him down.
Yeah.
So he starts running, and I start running, and we just started playing this peekaboo game over the ridges.
Oh, jeez, man.
I hit the top of a ridge. He hits the top of like the ridge in front of me.
Yeah, the next ridge. Yeah.
And I just keep running. Take a couple more shots, and my gun's empty. And finally, I get to the point where I just have to run until I get so close that I can't miss.
Yeah.
And I start running. The gun's empty. I pull that bullet out of my binocle case.
The old bull spent a whole year out there.
Spent a whole year out there, not thinking, just not like I probably should have pulled a fresh one or something.
Yeah.
I throw it in the rifle, and I close her up, and that's the bullet that I killed him.
See, that's poetic. It wouldn't be as poetic if you didn't do that. That's awesome, man. And talk about an ethical, man. Like people maybe who don't hunt or don't understand that, where it's like, Yeah, you shoot it, you miss, you know, but if you think like you said, you hit him in somewhere vital-ish, but not enough to get him to go down right away, like, he's going to expire somewhere else, you know, he'll die somewhere else.
And I just said I have to do 110%. I got to get this guy down.
Yeah, man. And
if he hits the hard timber, that's going to be a long time.
That's going to be a long time, man.
So, yeah, just this epic, like, my vision's closing in, I'm running uphill, running downhill, you know, and just like pull it together. You can do this. Pull it together.
Yeah, and then like people don't get it either, man. It's like going on almost like a full-on sprint, and then trying to make a good shot after that. And it's a big animal. It's like being able to steady your breathing and calm yourself down, you know, and have a good trigger pull.
Yeah,
takes a lot, man.
And you know, a lot of times there's a lot of situations where you can be dead calm and a good rested position.
Oh, we're about to lose it again.
Take a shot. But a lot of times you can't. If you're going to kill elk or kill animals, you have to be in good shape, and you have to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let me pause this thing real quick and see if that died on us. Another camera death.
But, yeah, no, just having the guts to commit and, you know, being able to hike good and control your breathing when you shoot.
Yeah,
That's part of... at the very beginning, we talked about when you practice, you break it down into parts.
Yeah.
And part of that practice, control your breathing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, and like you said, having that fitness and like spend the time in the hills, like you guys were doing, you know, like prepping for hunting season, getting out there and hiking around and glassing and spotting.
Right.
And yeah.
So yeah, you know, like you don't have to have fanciest gear. You can, as long as gear is like an accessory.
Yeah.
And if you have a good accessories, you just, you know, that's great. If you don't, just as long as your shooting's good and you have a good team that supports you, get animals out, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of build. And then like even, you know, to me, at least if I was just going to get into something right now, like I don't know how much gear I'd be buying. It would be more like, you know, getting out there and doing it and be like, oh, what do I need? You know, because I mean, you can kind of guess, you know, from stuff, but like building your personal kit, you know, you kind of need time on the ground to be able to build all that, you know, to see what you need, you know, like you said, switching over binos from a spotting scope, you know.
Right, and that's just something I learned listening to podcasts, listening to Steve Brunelli, who's been an amazing hunter, activist, and, you know, getting knowledge out there. He's not afraid to share knowledge.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just something I learned, and then we applied it, and it worked. It was great. You know, we're like, yeah, this has worked. This makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
And not being like stubborn and stuck, because I know like it seems like some old hunters kind of be like, this is my spot.
Right.
Like there's no more animals.
This is the way I've done it for 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know, I know a few people that hunt that area that we hunt, and this is like you watch them drive out every day and they don't have an elk in the back.
Yeah, man.
So you have to adapt and learn, and there's different ways to do it.
Yeah, totally, man. Like staying up on like your info, like some like Meat Eater, you know, Steve Ranella, and all the good folks who are out there are like helping improve the sport, I guess, you know, of hunting, and you know, it's good to keep expanding your brain and your tactics up too, right? Like analyzing like every day, like I went out today and maybe saw something, or like maybe the elk did something, or when did you, I don't know, like whatever scenario it might be where like you were unsuccessful and you're like, man, what could I do better? You know, like, and going home and like, whether you're like settling down the evening with the fire and a whiskey, or like a, you know, hot chocolate or tea or something, just kind of winding down, like, all right.
Well, it's like this trip, you know, like we're fishing, we're floating. I plan, hopefully we'll have a little after action review and write down what was good and what was bad.
That's a good call, man.
And, you know, what gear worked, what didn't work.
That's a really good call.
What was catching fish, what was not catching fish.
I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point. Like, if you didn't say that, I probably wouldn't have thought about it, but that's...
Right. Like what was good about my raft and what made it better and what didn't.
Yeah, and
what can I lose and, you know.
Yeah. And we're joking around about calling this the Smithless trip. I don't know, did we talk about that at the beginning?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and so, I mean, this might be the fallback, you know, the Mighty Mo trip, or we go, I don't know, float something else, but... It's just a nice fallback if we can't float Smith, and then we can just keep making this trip better and keep getting better, you know, fishing the Missouri and until we get our Smith trip.
Lots of weeds this year. Is it normally this weedy?
Yeah, I think so. This time of year, me and Shank were talking about that. Like, you know, typically, you know, we're here early in the year. Like, for me to have this time off is really unheard of, you know, in the wildland world, because, you know, fires are usually pretty heavy this time of year. So I haven't fished too much in end of July, but But yeah, it sounds like so. Long story long. Yeah, I think it's pretty weedy this time of year. It's like you want to kind of hit it earlier. So, next year if none of us pull the Smith permit, maybe we just plan to hit this, but a little earlier on, so it's not so weedy. And one, like you said too, like doing the AAR, like in my brain I've been, and I guess in my boat we've been kind of doing a little bit like using the tricos we had yesterday. Like and all three of us are using different flies, which helps a ton. And some people are having success on this, and like on a hopper or whatever it might be. And today we're trying to nymph and trying to see what works and what stretch of river seems to be having better luck for us too.
Yeah, and hunting, you get out there, you hunt, you get an animal, you got the animal. And then when you get back to camp or to your house or wherever, you take your pack out and you pull each item out and you think, did I use this? Is this dirty? If it's still clean, chances are you don't need it.
Yeah, totally.
Especially like in the cold weather situation.
Yeah.
You pull something out, and if it just sat in the bottom of your pack, just put it aside. Yeah. It may have its place in certain circumstances, but I do that a lot.
Yeah.
We go up, we get an animal, we put it down, harvest it, get it out. And if you are digging through your pack and if whatever you pull out is still clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of that in this trip because I was kind of planning on being, because typically for people who don't know, the Smith trip is like a 4 to 5 day float, typically 5 days, 4 nights, camping as you go. So you just bring everything you need for that amount of time. So that's kind of where I'm in between that. I feel like I've got stuff for that, but then I got maybe more stuff for that for the daily, being still in like civilization, so it's gonna take a little bit of tweaking after this one, I think, for me at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was besides the breaks, that was a pretty good podcast, a little over an hour long, I think, with the editing.
Are we in an hour?
Yeah, we're at hour 13.
Oh.
Yeah, right now and I mean, we only had small breaks for the camera overheating on us. So for people who are wondering why there's a few little breaks, our backlight is an old school one, an old school shop light with two heavy, I don't even know what kind of bulb is in those suckers, but I know
construction lighting.
Construction lighting, yeah. I know. I was going to say I know drywallers that use them, and they're good in the winter usually when you're doing interior stuff, but not in a cabin in the summer. And for anyone else who's kind of wondering where the backdrop for this video is, the Missouri River. So we're in a section of the Missouri and an old family cabin, and so I guess to wrap up the podcast, just talking about more this trip and getting people together and kind of encouraging folks who might be listening to this, like, use public lands, plan a trip, and just
pay attention to who you vote for. Public lands is, I just don't want them to go away.
Yeah,
that's where guys like us, that's our bread and butter.
Yeah, exactly, man.
We don't own a huge ranch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like if you don't have
river access,
ranch,
keep the river access open.
Yep. Yeah, and like Smith is a state park. That's why it's permit. And for folks who don't know, and that's so it's public ground, but it's permitted, so it keeps the fishing. I don't know.
Keeps
better.
it good.
Yeah, exactly. Keeps it better. I was trying to think of a better word, but it keeps it better and keeps the pressure on the fish down.
Right.
Because like the Missouri at times of the year can get a little overpressured, and it's crazy because it's a big river, as folks might be able to see from this video, but it's like, even today we were in a few more drift boats than I expected, and it's Tuesday, so right in the middle of the week pretty much, so anything to add on that?
No, not really. It's been a great float. Fishing's been tough, but what are you going to do? Yeah,
fishing's been tough. Yeah, we're kind of
drinking's been good.
Drinking's been good. Yeah, beer's been cold. Fishing's been good.
Yeah,
company's been great, man. It's been like, one of my uncles I see maybe once a year. Was able to come along, and another of my uncles who was supposed to be on the Smith trip. He's not here, but run into him down the way in a couple days in Missoula and see him and the family. And like I said, like mostly you guys, like you and Shank and Carl and Bronson. Like I see Bronson a little bit more, but like I wouldn't see him but once a year if it wasn't for this. Right. So, yeah, these kind of things are important. Like you said, public lands are important, and definitely something worth fighting for. So, folks who might be listening, something to consider. Well, unless you got anything else, man. Anything else? America, yeah, breed them. Dude, I appreciate
2 words,
you.
Free, dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's all you need.
That's all you need.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Man.
No, thanks.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime, especially brewery.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, I forgot I was going to ask you about some brewery stuff.
Yeah, well, avid home brewer.
Yeah.
Just under pro level.
Just under pro. Yeah, getting pretty much semi-pro right now.
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah, so
reminds me of a Will Ferrell movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. The tropics. Yeah. And so hopefully on the next podcast we have you on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You might be breaking ground on a brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of future plans, right?
Yeah.
So and the next the next podcast might even be other brewery. Still working on my Airstream trailer, so that'll be the studio. Hopefully by the end of the summer. I keep saying that, but that'll be there. And then, but this will be
hopefully I'll have my house done by tomorrow. But,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's positive thinking.
Right.
Yeah. So thanks again, Glenn. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. We'll see you on the next one. And tonight fishing.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.